Jesse?
Hey Michael, before we get into Snatched, I need to know what horror films you watched growing up. I'd be willing to bet you watched Invasion of the Body Snatchers a time or two.
Jesse, I wish I could tell you that was the case. I definitely watched The Faculty a lot.
Well,
The
that's
Faculty,
classic.
which is a body snatcher story. In that late '90s scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, urban legend, Faculty, boom. I hadn't honestly watched the most recent ones. It was, but the video store that I went to as a kid had the '90s body snatcher poster over it, so it was always in my brain. I would definitely say The Shining was one of my favorites as a kid.
Awesome. Well, a side story here, but like I actually went there for my honeymoon. I stayed at the hotel from The Shining.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, do they do anything with it? Like
Yeah,
to,
they have like a little ghost tour, and
oh,
I mean
cool.
it's fantastic. What's even crazier is they actually filmed a bunch of Dumb and Dumber there. So there's like we landed on the moon, like that's there too. So there's some really cool stuff.
Awesome.
Um, so the pitch for this season of Bite Size Halloween, is topical issues such as racism, gender, parenthood, sexuality, and identity. And I have to say, I'm a white male, like white, like uh I'm not sure if I'm necessarily the target audience, but I thought you nailed it. Like, not only is the main theme of identity, sexuality perfect, but the black boy, he's the hero. Amazing. So much polish in 10 minutes. I just have to applaud that. It was I didn't even know what I was getting into. Um Amazing from start to finish.
Thanks, Jesse. Can I also share that even if the stories are about queer people or people of color or identity issues, simply because you do not necessarily share those identity markers doesn't mean it's not for you too.
Oh, of
So
course.
I hope you feel included in watching those stories as well, simply because they allow you the opportunity to walk in their shoes too.
I have this yeah, I completely agree. And I like different perspectives. I like different backgrounds. Um there's this like weird, a buddy of mine makes this comment and I love it. Every podcast is, in most cases it's going to be three white guys with beards. And I'm that guy, so I don't need to hear that perspective. I don't need to hear them agreeing for 45 minutes, to know if something's good or not. So that's why I appreciate stuff like this, and I appreciate the perspective. um can you talk a little bit about, not only what it's like being a part of a project like this, but creating something that's so good?
Well, that's sweet of you. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm in amazing company this year with 20 other filmmakers who all have something to say. I think, as someone who's curated before, the curation of these stories is top notch and international, which is so important, obviously, especially in this day where, people are watching Squid Game all around the world. We need more international stories. We need more diverse perspectives. So I feel honored to be in such good company. And in terms of the film itself, it came together very, very quickly. I hadn't even, when I got the pitch for it, I wrote this film that night. To be honest, I wrote it in about 15, 20 minutes. It sort of poured out of me the night before I got the pitch, but it made perfect sense to me, which is rare for an idea to just have such clarity. And it's almost as if, all the ideas previous sort of built up or led into this. And we shot it like a month later. Our post production was a couple weeks, and here we are. And I actually the compressed timeline I think was a bit of a support for this type of project because there was no time for second guessing, right? There was no time for doubt. You sort of had to just push forward, and thankfully I was in the greatest company imaginable with our cast and crew. My producing partner Nia Lucifinia, who is a genius to me, and my third arm. Obviously, our cast. I didn't even know, to be perfectly honest, that Tatiana and Brendan were married when they came on board, and to work with a married couple in real life again. I had done it previously. Is such a luxury on a compressed timeline because they already know each other, right? They
Yeah.
have comfort. They can speak the same rhythms. And especially in comedy, you see in the kitchen scene in the movie, they're just completely on the same wavelength. So yeah, the company you keep is all that matters.
Yeah, and I do want to touch on the cast. I mean, we have Emmy Award winner, also She-Hulk, Orphan
Yeah,
Black, and
yeah,
then like you mentioned, Brendan Hines, the Tick, Lock and Key, and then let's not forget Misha, Freaky, the girl in the woods. Amazing, amazing. And I guess I want to know, how involved were you in the cast process?
yeah. 1,000%.
Awesome.
Funny enough, my first job out of college was in casting, so I've always loved casting, and Misha looks like they could be the child of those two, which is an unbelievable asset. Um, Brendan had shared the script with Tatiana. Never in a million years did I think I could even ask Tatiana or find a way to her. And I knew She-Hulk was coming out, and when you're a filmmaker like myself, you don't imagine that can happen, and it's all timing and luck. I mean, the week we shot this was the week after she did Comic-Con and the week before she started her next project. We just happened to fit in that couple days she had off. And she so graciously agreed to play in the sandbox with us. So yeah, we lucked out. And the rest of the actors too, Leon Jones, Alexander Panagos, are amazing. And this was their first time doing a big film like this, and they killed it too. So yeah, luck of the draw.
Yeah, I checked out your Instagram earlier. I like how you like tag everybody and give everybody props. I think that that's fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's not my film, it's
Yeah,
our film. So
yeah,
I appreciate that. There's so many unsung heroes that work on these films, that work on anything, and people need to know the work that goes into this and what people do, and how their touch influences it. So yeah, it's important.
exactly. And back to you a little bit. You're not exactly known for horror. You know, so why would 20th Digital Studio, why would they give you the reins, or like what do you think it was about you that allowed this to happen?
That's a really interesting question. You're right. I actually was in a horror movie many years ago called Midnight Movie. I was killed off second, I think, which it's a fun film. Uh, I grew up on horror. I love horror. The horror section of the video store was my safe haven as a kid. I think what I want to do with horror was different and unique. That to me, the horror of our film is not the jump scares or the strings or the shadows. And the sort of joke is I present that to you. Of course, one of the first shots of the movie is a man in shadow in the dark corner of a room, who turns out to be the love interest and later the hero of the film. And so I think what I wanted to bring to horror, particularly with this film, was to challenge your expectations of what horror can be, and what horror moments are. And I'm so grateful to 20th for giving me that opportunity. And I think there's a lot of filmmakers these days, both established, Jordan Peele, Ari Aster, as well as emerging filmmakers who are trying to find new ways to scare you. And I think if we're going to continue to love this art form, we got to find new ways to scare people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think this, even thinking outside of the theme, I think that this is actually one of the stronger seasons. And
Cool.
with shows, like Tales from the Crypt, which I know you are a fan of,
Yeah.
shorts and horror, they go hand in hand. It's kind of like one of those things like peanut butter and jelly. And now you've kind of tackled that. Like this, I would say that this is up there as far as some of my favorite short form horror. Do you think that you'll continue down that path, or are you looking to maybe turn this into a feature? That was my wife's first question as soon as the credits rolled, she said, "All right, when's the movie?"
Well, I'm happy to hear that. My hope is that certainly it can exist as a standalone story, and that it leaves you wanting more. Yeah, look, I think the reason horror works in short form, I grew up even before Tales of the Crypt. Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon? Nick at Night. No, what was it called? Snick.
Snick, yeah.
Do you remember Snick? Right.
Saturday Nickelodeon.
Yeah, there you go. It's because they're tales. They're sort of, let's gather around the campfire and tell each other scary stories. And scary stories don't need to be novels or features all the time. Sometimes a short scary story is all you need. There's that thing of like tell a scary story in 7 words,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes those are the most impactful. So yeah, I would love to make short form horror again. And certainly, I know what the feature version of this story would be. And obviously the Body Snatchers films that have preceded it, dating back to the 50s, were all feature length and based on the original novel. So yeah, I'd love to tackle both.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea. I wanted to give you a chance to talk a little bit about Boat Shore Productions, and then also, if there's anything else you want audiences to know about Snatch before we close.
Sure, that's kind of you. Yeah, Boat Shore Productions, I started my senior year of college at USC, 2005. And it was actually started by necessity. Sometimes necessity, helps you get going. I was directing a show at USC and I needed to form a production company. Michael Row Your Boat Ashore was the song my mom sang to me to sleep when I was a kid. And I liked the image of, like we alluded to before, multiple people on a boat helping bring it ashore. So yeah, I was in New York the last 15 years. Boat Ashore Productions was my banner to make films, but also I direct experiential events, large scale events. I'm directing the Golden Trailer Awards this Thursday at the Orpheum in downtown LA, which I'm excited for. And yeah, the whole point of Boat Ashore is to tell untold stories and build communities and connect communities and keep conversations going around these stories. So I'm so grateful to have it. And then about Snatched, first I hope people watch it, and then I hope it sparks conversation, either with friends on the internet or strangers on the internet, or with your loved ones, with a parent, with a queer friend or family member you might have, about, simply asking the question of how can we be stronger allies to one another, especially in a world where we're increasingly divided. How can we actually help one another more? So that's all I can hope for.
Awesome. Well, here at CineDump, we let the doers know how they're doing. And Michael, you are a busy guy, and I appreciate your time. And you're doing just fine.
Thanks, Jesse.
I implore everyone to get Snatched Bite Size Halloween Season 3, Episode 3, available now on Hulu. Just so you know, it's already started so many conversations just in my personal life.
Cool.
Like I said, I cannot stress enough that this is one of my favorite shorts that I've seen in a long time. So thank you for that. I appreciate all the work and effort that went into it. Congratulations to you and your team. This caught me off guard in a way that I can't express to you. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Jesse. I appreciate that.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you for your time, and
Thank
I'm
you.
out of here.
Have a great day.
You too.